All right, gang. Hello and welcome to Only Stupid Answers, the Patreon show. Yes, that's an official name. We'll make merch. Get excited for it. We are since
Wait,
I'm on a Skype call and I can't see you. I'm like just like looking at the ground. I'm like I
well,
can't
can
see
you
you
see
right
me
now
on the
because
other call? Because I got you on the laptop here too.
yes, no, I'll look like this.
There you
That's
go.
perfect. No, I can because I keep looking at our computers, gang. We're doing this off-site today. We
Yes,
got a little bit of a pandemic on our hands, but
just a tiny
hey,
one.
literally it's a blip.
Yeah.
But do take it seriously. Wash your hands, social distance, do all the good
Yes.
stuff. It's scary times right now, but that doesn't mean we can. There's some opportunity right now to maybe check out some things we wouldn't normally, and so that's why we
Yes.
turn to you guys to vote on options. Right now, we're working our way through the Disney Plus app of TV shows and movies that we wouldn't have normally seen or we haven't revisited in a long time to give it another shot and just see how we feel about it. Just review it, talk about it with you guys, and really, learn something about each other and the world. So
Yes.
to this week, we got to watch and check out Gargoyles, the original Disney Channel series from 1994. And I only have vague memories. I told this on the stream that I checked. The only time I really remember watching this is when I was violently ill when I was a kid with a stomach flu and I vomited all over myself. But my parents weren't home
Yes.
yet, so I had to just chill in that. Well, I didn't have to. I was too sick to stand up, so I couldn't get up, and so I just hung out doing watching the gargoyles.
There
They
you
really got
go.
me through some tough times, but I don't remember a lot about this show. DJ,
Yes.
give us your hit background with this genre, this property.
I watched it a little bit as a kid. It was like a lot of shows that, as a kid, you pick up sporadically, like before you go to school or before you go, like in the morning. And so it was hard to keep track of like when it aired, or like watch it chronologically. But I remember enjoying it. I remember thinking it was cool. And I think the majority of what I watched were these first few episodes because I remember quite a bit. Like when it's one of those like you don't remember, and then you start watching, you're like, oh yeah, this I remember this. I remember this. And it's interesting watching it now as an adult because we just watched X-Men the animated series last week, and that was we watched 4 episodes, and that was like hit or miss. Like half were good, the other half were dated. This, granted, it was the first 5 episodes, and I feel like they poured a little extra money and time into it, poured a little of that Disney magic into it. But it's you can see like a lot of the. It feels very it's deep and rich, but there's definitely elements of its time. Like every time somebody goes to grab like a laser gun, it's like twice the size of their body. Very 90s. Ponytails, mullets and ponytails abound.
Oh yeah.
But it's also, you can see the DNA of stuff like Ninja Turtles, where there's like a naming system for the characters that as a kid, it's like, it makes it easier to keep track of, and it just adds a little bit of texture to the world. They're not just like Bob and Frank; they're all named after or boroughs or rivers or whatever in New York. They each kind of have their own color scheme. They each have their own interests. Like it's they're in New York, but they're hidden. And also, even though there's a very clear, distinctive mythology behind the gargoyles, the things that they face are like anything and everything. Like the gargoyles are clearly based in like old myth, like medieval mythology, but also they're going to fight robots and they're going to fight mutants and they're going to fight, you know what I mean? Like that core premise does not matter at all to the threats they'll be facing.
Oh yeah, no, and no, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a good equivalent since it's clear they wanted more out of the series. They got a lot. Like Gargoyles wasn't like a blip on the map. Like it was a big deal, and it did have a big impact for like my generation, your generation. Like there are people there. There's a good chunk of the swath of the population that is that has a special place in their heart for this series. But yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a good equivalent. I will say that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles do have a more memorable naming system. Like I got the names of the characters,
Yes.
but I don't know all the boroughs of I don't know all the boroughs of New York that well. They are pretty memorable, like Lexington, Hudson, Bronx, Goliath. You just got to have one that has a cool name.
Yes.
You got to have one that has a spooky name. I don't remember the other ones, but maybe if I watched the show a little bit more, I would be more familiar with it. I think maybe that could have been said the same for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles if I didn't watch those first 3 movies on repeat forever. I didn't really watch the animated series for TMNT. I did watch the 3rd movie more than the other ones.
Oh, because the 3rd movie is the iconic one where they go back to samurai times.
Yeah, but they switch places.
By the way, tangent, missed opportunity that they go back to samurai times, but they don't use that as an excuse to like explore the creation of the Foot Clan. Anyway, we don't need to go there.
Nope.
That movie's just a missed opportunity is all I got to say. Although, Sam, I'm with you as a child, very much enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, and revisiting it, I only get the only things that pop up in my brain of anything memorable is the intro. Like I remember like it being just spooky enough that it was okay for me, and my parents were like, "Man,
are you talking about Gargoyles?"
Show. For Gargoyles,
yeah.
It was spooky enough in the intro that it was okay. I do remember feeling that like that little bit of scared when you were watching it, that little bit of fear where it's like, I know I'm brave enough. I can keep watching this. That's okay. Which is a good balance because it makes the kid feel braver.
Yes.
It makes the show feel that much cooler that they're able to overcome that fear that they feel when they're watching it. But yeah, I remember the intro. I remember like certain aspects of it, but revisiting it, you mentioned this like where they pour that Disney sauce on the first 5 episodes, Awakening, which is what we're specifically covering today.
Yes.
You can feel that like it's amazing seeing how animation has evolved since then, but also this is like top tier for the time. Like it does have limits in a sense since it is a TV show. Like it's not gonna get the same budget as a movie or the time that a movie would have to be produced, but it looks beautiful. The expressiveness of the faces, and the because you're able to see the acting within like the eyebrows and the way the eyes like dilate, and like there are very clear expressions that they're going through, and it's almost like the faces sometimes move like rubber bands, not in a negative way, but in the sense that like it's not limited to like Simpsons or Family Guy animation where they have a still image of a face and then they animate a mouth onto it. Like these are fully realized characters, and I was genuinely blown away. And also the origin is it's 2 steps more complicated than I thought it was. It was like there's like it could have been like gargoyles cursed. Now they're in the future. It's like, nope, it's way more complicated than that.
Yeah, that's one big deviation from, and maybe a reason why it's not, it is beloved, it has a cult following, but it's not quite as iconic as something like Ninja Turtles, because like Ninja Turtles, it's like turtles, mutagen, and now they're ninjas. That's it. That's the entire setup. Like Batman, parents died, real bummed about it. Now he's Batman. Boom, you're in.
Ninja.
Spider-Man, bit by radio. Gargoyles, it's like, okay, so they were in the past and they turned into stone, but then they got portrayed by a human, and then they killed all of them. But then because the humans were mad at them, they froze them for a century, and Goliath was real bummed about it. So he's like, let me stay with them too. And so he did, and now their castle is brought to it. It was only above the clouds, and now they're free, but the guy that brought them here is bad. And you know what I mean? Like, it's like, all right. But I do like, one thing I will say about that is something that stuck with me as a kid that I find interesting here, because a lot of the stuff I watched as a kid, it's like Shredder's a bad guy, Joker's a bad guy. These guys are bad guys. They're bad. What I found interesting, what stuck with me as a kid, was Xanatos. As a kid, I was confused, like, wait, is he good or is he bad? And I like that that's intentional. Like, he's a very mature antagonist. And Demona too, who we don't, her name isn't revealed till the last episode of the 5-part opening. It's the nature of their antagonist is very like unique for kids' cartoons at the time, where it's not overtly evil. Like they would not exist now. Like Xanatos even says in the last episode, like, you'd still be gathering moss without me. It's very complicated. I will say I was confused at the end of that last episode, because they're, after that whole conversation with Xanatos, they're back on the castle. I'm like, all right. And then they freeze and I'm like, wait, are you still allowed to be here? You kind of like threw down with the owner.
Why don't you go to like her apartment or something? Go anywhere else, or go to the park, or go on to any other church in the city. Like, you can still, as long as the castle's above it, right? Like that's the rule. As long as it's above the clouds.
That's a good question. They don't even touch on that. Some things they don't touch on is like, now that they're free, are they just free, or is there a way that the curse comes back? And also Demona's situation about whether because the way Xanatos says it is that he freed them and then he realized that would work on her, but then she makes a line that implies that she's been free longer than them, so that's a little bit confusing. After these
maybe
first few
she's been
episodes.
alive like the whole time, and that was just a bit, like she was just trying to like win them over.
Yeah,
because she's always like they're always like zooming in on her eyes, and she's always like, squinting evilly.
Yeah,
and she was really, I did like that she was like fully on board with tossing a couple dudes out of that airship.
yes,
which is they're clearly Shield. They're clearly agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
100%, 100%.
The costume design to the helicarrier to everything, and that's not a bad thing. It's just like, and they even make a joke that's like, oh, look at these comic book villains. It's like, yeah, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah,
and that's
100%.
Totally fine. I'm not mad about it, but I did want to read, because, and I will preface this, it is an IMDb trivia fact. Fact. It made it sound like it's been verified. It's not.
Yeah.
What I saw, speaking of Xanatos, was originally David's last name was Xavier, but Greg Wiseman, the showrunner, worried that he would be associated with the Marvel Comics hero Professor Charles Xavier, who was in the animated series that was running at the same time. He took most of the name Xanatos from the Greek deity of death, Thanatos, but with the first initial of Xavier, the character was also originally going to be a descendant of the wizard who froze the gargoyles in stone form. But then they ended up changing that. But that would have maybe also helped why he was aware of magic. And also, I like the character. I like that he's really complicated right out the gates. And I'm sure if we watch more, we'd understand, like, they might explore the rules of the castle being above the clouds and like that, and what that means exactly. Like, do you have to like literally move the entire building, or could you have just like left a rock on an airplane, and every time it was above the clouds, like you're good to go? And also, like, worth asking, when did he build the gargoyle robots? Like, why would he have built them that looked just like Goliath, filled with gasoline, I have to assume? Just because every time they like ran into something, it was just like poof, poof. They just immediately incinerated. Which you have to. It's a kid's show. You need to.
Exactly. And those are the things, like, as mature as it is, those are the things that you kind of like roll with. It's like the Sentinels in the X-Men cartoon. It's like, why are they so big? And they're supposed to be hiding and stuff. It's like, why would you have killer robots? They don't need to look like gargoyles. They could just be killer robots. I don't know that there's anything about the gargoyle design. Also, I gotta call bullshit on they can fly, the gargoyles can only glide. Goliath and Demona had no problem getting up to that helicarrier. So don't give me this whole gliding bullshit. They can fly.
Like they're also like swooping and going up and down. Like, that's not gliding. Gliding is just going down. Airplane.
Going down with style. Thierry Fournier in the chat says Gargoyles was a try from Disney to compete with Batman the animated series, something more dark and gritty than the normal goofy and fun series they had. I have no verification for this, but I also wonder, I know ever since I've been a kid, Disney's really struggled, or I don't even know if they've struggled, but they perceive themselves as struggling with male audience members, trying to get more of the male demographic. And of course, they've resolved that now in the present day by just buying Marvel and Star Wars.
If we can't make them, we'll buy them.
Yeah, we'll just do that. But I feel like Gargoyles is probably an attempt at like trying to broaden their appeal, which does surprise me that we haven't gotten. Rewatching these shows is like, they 100%, instead of making another stupid live action Disney remake, they should make a Gargoyles movie. Like, I don't understand. Apparently, in 2018, Jordan Peele even pitched a Gargoyles movie to them, and it's like, what are you doing?
That's cool.
Just do it.
Because with the current 3D animation style that Disney does, like, the style for the Gargoyles cartoon looked way different than what other Disney properties were doing at the time. It did clearly look like it was emulating the Batman animated series at the time, which just further knocks the X-Men series in my brain, because the animation's so rough, and at the same time Batman came out, and then 2 years later this came out. Like, animation doesn't evolve that much in 2 years. Not knocking it, people love that show, but it's worth dunking on every once in a while. But back to the point of like bringing it back, there is something really cool they could do with the current 3D animation style, computer generated images for like Tangled and Frozen and Wreck-It Ralph that would look really cool, because also they're getting into like the Pixar realm of like the textures looking really cool. Like they get like not just realism with trees, but when they bring to life fictional characters, they could get really creative with the way like the wings move, or if they came up with like a new set of rules for the gargoyles that maybe either simplified it or they streamlined it. Maybe you don't need to get rid of it, just explain it in a way that's just like super clear. Like, no, they're just like, what if they were regular like winged creatures, but they got cursed, and so now they do the rock thing. That's now part of their thing. They were super strong bat creatures born out of eggs.
Yeah.
Classic.
We've all been there.
But when they get now they got cursed, and now they turn into rock instead of like the extra step of like now they're rocks forever.
Yeah.
But hey, who's to say? I just think there is an opportunity here with Disney Plus or original movies coming out from the Disney company. Like they adapted like Big Hero 6 from a Marvel property, made it their own. Like there's room there to experiment with different properties than they normally would. Speaking of, I'm specifically mentioning like princess properties, that I think this would be right in their wheelhouse of making something really cool and memorable.
Totally agree. I would, especially with Disney Plus, I would be genuinely surprised if we don't see them revisit the Gargoyles property in some capacity. And again, especially to like branch out from, obviously Star Wars and Marvel especially are big cash cows for them, but kind of like broaden that aspect of their brand. I think it would make a lot of sense. Sam, so for you not having seen this really before, would you keep watching Gargoyles after these 5 episodes?
It's just since there's, gotta be honest, so much good TV out there right now.
Yeah, but you got a lot of free time now.
I do. I am still working from home, which has been a big saving grace. And I will say with the new stay-at-home policy from Gavin Newsom, I'm very bummed I can't go in for that one day. That was a big relief regardless. Yes, I do have more time now. There is still a lot of good TV. Like, I just started Fleabag. You've recommended it. And now
Fleabag's so good. I will say, with the way you watch TV, you'll probably chew through that in an afternoon.
When I saw it was 20 minutes, I was like, yes.
Yeah, and there's only like 6 episodes a season.
Yeah, so since I have Fleabag to watch, Gargoyles isn't on my brain. They're slightly different shows.
Yeah.
But it is.
We do need to talk about Fleabag, though. I love that show.
I've only seen one episode, but I've liked it so far. But that being said, I would revisit this show. If I was on like a plane and I wanted to download like a season of a show, super easy to fly through. It's the exact right amount of time for an episode. I do like that they do multiple parters, so you can get bigger stories, and they're not really like wasting their time with filler. It feels like, as so far.
Yeah, we only watched the first 5 episodes of like the 13 episode first season. Season 2 has like 52 episodes. I'm going to imagine there's some filler in there.
There's got to be. Where someone gets creative and they're like, what if they went to the mall? Which in Voltron was fun.
Yes.
That was fun. But hey, who could say something and watched it? Yeah. That was the good stuff. I should rewatch that. Anyways, too many shows. That being said, I have a long way around. I can see myself revisiting the show. It's just not high on my priority list now. Like, I'm not going to turn it on once we're done recording today.
Gotcha.
What about you?
I think for me, because I'm kind of a nerd for these things, like I just rewatched Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes for lunch. I like having like something light for when I sit down for lunch, because I've always, like the past however many a year or two, I've worked from home. I like to pop on something light for lunch, and I could 100% see myself continuing with this, just because I find, because I remember how beloved it was, but how I didn't get a chance to really invest. It's basically the same thing with Avengers Earth, the Mightiest Heroes, although that wasn't on when I was a kid. You hear enough good things, you're like, I'll revisit it, and you see enough to like that. It's like, it's worth taking time to like see how they explore this world and what they did with it. I will probably, Castlevania season 3 just came out, so that might take priority, but once that's leveled off, I will probably keep watching this. And also, like, I'm a 90s kid, so like, I saw the next episode, it's like it basically looks like X-Force, like they're facing some sort of mercenary squad that like 100% looks like X-Force. And I'm like, okay, you got me. Like, I'm in, you know what I mean?
No, I fully agree. By the way, Terry Fournier in the chat, because I got it to reboot and we got it to work. He said the fun fact about a CG animated movie of Gargoyles, they could possibly get most of the voice cast back. As far as I can tell,
voice cast is A+, by the way. Keith David as Goliath.
Sally Richardson Whitfield as Liza. Jeff Bennett, Frank Welker, Ed Asner.
I gotta say, something I didn't quite pick up on as a kid is the insane amount of sexual tension between Goliath and Eliza the cop.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Like, to the point where I'm like, is this okay? Because he's still like he's a creature. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like if like April O'Neil was like making out with Donatello or whatever. You know what I mean? But it's still
Wait, did they not?
wait, hold on. Did they in the CG animated series? Donatello did have a crush on April, but I'm just saying like it blew my mind. I'm like this is a lot. You're laying it on pretty thick right now.
But it was a surprise. It was a fun surprise to realize Ed Asner was playing a character
Yeah.
in this. Also Broadway, the guy who gets all the gargoyle that gets all the fat jokes.
Yes.
That's the voice actor who does Patrick, and that was really from SpongeBob.
That's where you've heard her from. That's where I've heard her
Yeah.
from. Also, yeah, Ed Asner's always great, and I'm actually surprised because in the first flashback, there's a lot of like dubious Scottish and British accents in the past.
Yeah.
His is pretty on point. Like it's not distracting. You know what I mean? It just sounds like who this character is, and I appreciate that. And Ed Asner is a treasure always, but especially when he gets to do some voice work because he was Granny Goodness in Superman the Animated Series, which was great.
Always a surprise. That's so surprising to me. Like it's when you find out like when you realize like J.K. Simmons, Whiplash J.K. Simmons was General Eiling, right, in the Justice League show.
Yeah,
yeah. When he became like the woolly man or the general with the big teeth, you know, like.
And also, he was Aang's son in Korra: The Last Airbender,
which was great, and like that was super cool. But it's also just hard sometimes to connect the dots on that.
Yep.
that they did that.
He also
that being.
In the Spider-Man animated series, not Spectacular Spider-Man, which is my favorite, but the one after that, I think he reprised this role as J. Jonah Jameson, and again that was post Oscar.
That's really, really, really cool.
Yeah.
But with that, I think Gargoyles is truly amazing. I was very blown away by it, and as soon as I just realized Greg Wiseman worked on it, and that may have been mentioned before, but it didn't click until now. That the guy who created and show ran Young Justice and also Superior Spider-Man for You, and just and also a lot of comics for DC and Marvel where like they're one-offs, like they're miniseries, but like he did one, it was the Death and Life of Captain Atom.
Yeah.
Which I was like, who cares about Captain Atom? But it was so cool.
Yeah.
It was such a cool story that he told that really tried to fix the when they were trying to make him Dr. Manhattan for New 52, and they're like, well, that's not working. So we're gonna go ahead and like the way that they slowly dealt with that was really interesting. So, anyways,
and now Wally West is my Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, they had to have somebody.
Yeah,
they had to give somebody.
Cool.
I just. Yeah. Well, that'll pay off in a really cool way.
Yeah, sure. Well,
but sure, of course.
Sure.
But gang, on Mondays, that's when I'm going to be putting up polls that you guys can vote on what we will be reviewing in the future, the following week, and also we're going to do a little test up that posting some of these on YouTube. They will still be behind, Patreon. This is for you guys, but we did want to like put out a few teasers to let people know, like, hey, we're having a grand old time over here on Patreon. Don't want you guys to miss out. So if you guys have recommendations, let us know on Patreon. You can also tweet at us at Sam Basher,
at DJ
Twitter.
Talks Trash.
At Only Stupid Answers.
You ain't got the vowels from stupid. Also,
before we go, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that our DC Universe review should be coming back relatively soon, which is exciting. And we have a new. You were saying this at the top, but we've got a new YouTube show coming out to make up for the fact that movie reviews aren't a thing right now.
Yeah, we're going to be trying some new stuff to fill it out and also make sure you guys have content and we want to get you guys included. So check out patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. But before we go, what would you rate Gargoyles, the first 5 episodes?
First 5 episodes, 8.5. 8.5. I can see room for the series to hit even bigger heights. Like you can see, like they're laying the groundwork for some really cool stuff. But this is also a really, really strong first entry into a story.
Yes,
What about you?
I fully agree. 8.5 is like you can see like you said, you can see the groundwork, but the level of care and depth that went into the animation, the score, which was really, really haunting. It's very Goosebumps-esque, but it took itself more seriously. It's got that like weird dark vibe of kid shows from the 90s, but this one really like landed it well where other properties didn't, and the voice cast alone should give it an A. But like there's like little things here and there that kind of lower it a little bit, but
Yeah.
it is well worth revisiting if you are interested, or if you watched it when you were a kid and you haven't since. Like, just give it a shot.
Yeah, I also got a big shout out to like just some of the comic book nonsense that for a kid show is just really cool. Like, don't think about it. Like, specifically the idea of this ancient castle on top of a high. Basically, if you had Stark Tower and Tony Stark put a medieval castle on top, don't think about the logistics of that. Just enjoy how fucking cool it is. Like, there's stuff like that where it's like, that's just cool. Like, it's nonsense, but it's like so cool. And I feel like more kid shows should invest in that. Like, why do it? Just because it's cool. We're just doing it because it's cool.
I fully agree.
Big fan.
I will definitely be checking this out soon. But again, check out Mondays for the poll. And if you're watching live right now, please join us in 30 minutes. And we're going to be diving into Quentin Tarantino's very first film, Reservoir Dogs, as well as Italian Job. There's a reason why those are connected, but you're going to have to find out when you tune in. So we'll see you guys in just a little bit.
Bye-bye.